I get it, cause people's experience different. Check the prejudice at the door. Speak your mind, you give the flow. Tell the truth if it's sweet or sour. Cause the hour we spitting that fire.
Okay, so this article is about 26 years old, okay? And was back in, 26 years ago in 1994, early 90s. And this is from the Los Angeles Times, okay? But before we get into this, we're going to talk about this because this article is pertaining to the O.J. Simpson case. And some of you may not even been born when this case happened and things like that. But I'm going to read it. And the reason why I was going to read this is because I was visiting the infamous Sylvia's channel, okay, and she read late last week when I think a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago when the judge in the R. Kelly case has granted for the prosecutors to be granted a sequestered jury, okay. And so for those of you who do not know, that's when the jury is held, okay, and don't want to be outside in the public eye because they don't want them to be harassed or persuaded or or anything like that in this case. And so a lot of people have said, yeah, well, sequestered jurors are always siding with the prosecutor. Well, in this particular case with the O.J. Simpson trial, it was not. And it was a high profile case as well. The only difference is that it was not social media as it is today. So my thing is, I think that in order for us to sit up there and advocate for Robert Sylvester Kelly, it is very important that we get the message out here to the jurors that just because you are sequestered don't mean that you have to sit up there and agree with what everyone else is saying. And most importantly, we want you to sit up there and look at the evidence. Most importantly, the message that I'm going to be pushing on SPITTINFIRE is hung jurors are a verdict of not guilty, okay? Because it's within reasonable doubt, okay? That goes for federal and state cases. Okay, so if you have a reasonable doubt and you hung and they keep telling you to go back and deliberate more, it's not guilty. Point blank and period. And that's what I want you guys out there to push, those who are supporters. Because I don't want anyone out there to be thinking, the jurors hung, let it play out. No. If you are hung, we don't want them to do what they did to Weinstein. They were hung twice on Weinstein, as I showed you in the last video. And then the judge kept going back to make them go back and deliberate again because of the Me Too movement. Now, here's what I want to tell you. That case as well is going to sit up there and result to a granny of an appeal, especially if they take that to the state Supreme Court as well. And that's what's going to happen. Okay, and it's unfortunate. Even though he has cases in California that he's trying now, the only difference is they're going to try that first before they start going to these appeals. I'm sure that that's the plan. So, in the Los Angeles Times, and this is by Andrea Forg and David Farrell, okay, and this is, like I said, this is 26 years ago. Some of you may not have been born and you heard about the O.J. Simpson case, okay. I'm hoping that you can see it fully because I see it really clear on my screen. I'm hoping you guys can see it on yours. Okay, it says, to protect jurors from intense media coverage of the O.J. Simpson trial, double murder trial, so prosecutors Friday asked Judge Lance A. Ito to sequester juror members from the time they are selected until their discharge, meaning they will be kept from their families and jobs for months. If granted, the unusual request for a gavel-to-gavel sequestration could lay important groundwork for one of the most closely watched trials in modern history, perhaps shaping the composition of the 12 members panel and even influencing the jury to favor one side or the other, according to some attorneys and legal scholars. The jurors have a stake in the outcome because they are held hostage, said veteran Los Angeles defense attorney Barry Levin, who, like other experts, said if the juror is sequestered, they would be additionally pressure from within the group to reach a speedier verdict. Okay, so they're saying that people in the group, after so long, people get homesick, and when they get homesick, let's reach a verdict. Let's just care. Let's just go. And this is the thing that we want people to understand. You have to have super patience. You may be gone for your families for a long time. You may be gone for society long. Hey, this is the perfect time because we are in quarantine anyway. This may happen from this day to next year. You may be here. You understand? But you still want to make sure that you do the right verdict, okay? If the evidence prove it, then you know what the outcome is. Guilty. But if the evidence don't, and if there's a reasonable doubt, just one reasonable doubt, you must say not guilty. And this is what I'm spreading here on Spitting because we know that the whole detained of him being incarcerated pending trial is all bogus. Okay? So let's read the next paragraph. Typically, in such instances, Levin said, the result in a subtle advantage for prosecutors because jurors are constantly surrounded by court bailiffs or other representatives of government. Okay, so they're saying that most of the time jurors that are sequestered, they surrounded by court bailiffs and other representatives of the government, and they mostly side with them because this is what they up under. So even with a sequestered juror, if I was the defense attorney, I wouldn't want the jury be around them. I would want to have a person, okay, who can sit up there, a third party security, okay, and I want to make sure that there are no representatives of either side of the government that they can be around. They can still be sequestered, and I think that that's what the best that Robert Sylvester Kelly should put a motion in for the judge. Okay, we don't want them to have more exposure or more around it to any government officials than we have as defense. In other words, this jury will be sequestered by no other than a third-party security team. Nobody from the court. No bailiffs that work under court jurisdiction. That's just me. Okay? All right? And that's what I would ask for if it was my client. The defense function is to challenge the government, Levin said. You're wanting jurors to question government authority. You're wanting them to disagree with the government positions and theories, and their lives are controlled by the government. Sequestration of jurors is not unusual in high-profile cases, but most of the time jurors are put up in hotels during deliberation after they heard testimony. The request by the Simpson prosecutor is designed to keep jurors from exposure to media through every phases of trial, scheduled to begin September 26. Not every expert agrees that such a situation will favor one side or the other, but the debate touches on the thorny question, how best to ensure fairness in a case in which even the tiniest twists and turns end up on national television and on newspaper headlines. Though Ito has yet to rule on the prosecutor's request, the judge has said he is considering a partial sequester of the jury that would shield them from outsiders during court proceedings, but allow them to go home for the night. Under that plan, Ito said he would try to lessen the temptation of jurors to sneak peek at news reports by clipping newspapers, magazines, and recording broadcast reports. Then provide copies of each juror at the end of the trial. Deputy District Attorney Marshall Clark and William Dodgman objected to that scheme in the papers filed Friday, saying jurors still will be exposed, although acknowledging the potential enormous cost of providing hotel accommodations to most than a dozen jurors, including alternates throughout the month of trial. The two prosecutors argue that it will cost even more to go through a retrial made necessary by contamination. If ever there is a jury in the history in the world that needs protection from publicity, this jury is one, they wrote in the motion Friday. Given the massive media coverage so far, one can only expect publicity to intensify during trial. Prosecutors also ask that potential jurors be questioned about their attitude singly rather than by batches, to to ensure that one juror answers do not influence other potential jurors who is listening. I'm sorry. In support of those requests, Clark and Hodgman told the courts that a search of newspaper and magazines' computer databases revealed that Simpson's name had been mentioned 15,310 times since June 12th, the day of the slaying of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Lyle Goldman. Okay. Even the early grand jury inquiry included the murders had to be ended because some of the grand jurors acknowledged listening to the news report about a 911 tape in which Simpson and his ex-wife were purportedly involved in a domestic dispute. A tape considered highly prejudicial to prosecution, prosecutors said. News leaks have continued since then, they added. Both sides, some of them some of the erroneous. In each of the environment, there's simply in no way to conduct business as usual, according to some scholars. The forced sequestration of the jury is unfortunately necessary, said Peter Arenella, a UCLA professor who noted that he expects intensive ongoing analysis and commentary about the case in the media from legal experts who have been hired by news organizations. This has become an event where there are so many legal commentators speculating about these pieces of evidence does or does not mean. Even a juror who tried in good faith to avoid it probably find it impossible unless they become a social hermit, Arnella said. Norman M. Garland, a former public defender who is a professor at Southern Western University School of Law, expressed similar views, saying that a sequestration may be preferably to impose a sweeping gag order, or Ito indicated that he might do until a backlash of reaction forced the judge to reconsider. The legal fight over a gag order could create its own contamination of the trial, Garland said. Everything that is happening in this case is being looked at under a microscope. He said, even time you turn around, you find one thing you didn't want to know, and the risk the jurors facing that kind of exposure is going to do nothing but grow. In the paper prosecutors filed Friday, they even expressed concern that jurors might be following home by aggressive reporters or be tempted to take the initiative contacting the media. While the court offered to collect articles and videotapes concerning the case for a purpose of trial review through thoughtful and generous, the prosecutor wrote, the truth of the matter is that it will not quench the jurors' immediate thirst to learn how the public or media views particularly critical day of testimony. It is full sequestration to order throughout the trial. The already daunting task selecting jurors may become much harder, experts say. Garland said he believes that the system will work regardless. If potential jurors know in advance that they will be sequestered, it would be possible, at least in theory, to find candidates willing to ensure the hardship and still apply themselves to reach an impartial verdict, he said. He disagreed with those who believe that sequestration will favor the prosecution. One of the things we fear in sequestration in the jury is going to trick off to reach a quick decision that could cut either way. But Levin, the veteran defense attorney, sharply criticized the proposal to sequester, maintaining that it's biased to it creates a favor of the prosecution would be exacerbated by difficult to find and balanced mix of jurors. What kind of person will put aside their entire lives, financial, personally, and professionally, to lock up a hotel room for 3 to 6 months? Levin asked. The question most likely would be retired people who are independently wealthy, he said. Such jurors may be, okay, so you need to understand this. Wait a minute, let me go back and read that. What kind of person would put aside their entire lives financially, personally, and professionally and be locked up in a hotel room for 3 to 6 months? Levin asked, the answer most likely will be a retired people or those who are independently wealthy, he said. So is the type of people we want to stay away from? People who are retired and people who are wealthy. Such jurors may be far different in background and attitude from Simpson, a black man in urban upbringing who thought wealthy works for a living. You're not getting a juror of your peers, Levin said. Upcoming evidence hearing, including one of the debates of admissibility of DNA evidence, pose yet another problem in jury selection, UCLA Aranella said. Okay. If jurors were picked before those hearings, they could be forced to wait a month or so before being allowed to begin considered evidence. If they were sequestered during the time, they would have to bide those weeks in hotel rooms with little to do and little contact with outside world. On the other hand, if they were allowed to go home during the break, they might hear about evidence and ultimately was ruled admissible during the trial. Aranella said this could force some panelists to be dismissed, which in turn would require selection of a new jury even before the trial could begin in earnest. Time staff write Newton distribution of this story. Okay, so now that we've seen all of that, what do you guys think? Okay, what do you guys think now about sequestering of the jury? Okay, because one of the things I think is I think that the more we research sequestered juries and things like that, we need to know what type of people who have all the time in the world to sit up there and do that. Now, do we need to stay away from the wealthy and the retired, or is that going to be working in the favor of R. Kelly? These are one of the things that we need to definitely pay attention to if you are R. Kelly supporter like me. And let me explain again, because there were some things said out here. I'm for R. Kelly because I believe that the way that the government did things is wrong. This cannot be justice 20 years after the fact, or because you didn't like the verdict you got 20 years ago. This cannot be a situation to where organizations running our government, our courts, okay? Me Too, Time's Up, even Mute R. Kelly. They should not be running our courts. We have constitutional laws. These laws were violated. When they went out and tried to stop his money and they went out to this, these things, and the basis of it is on the fact that this is what's happening. And we need to hear all these things. Now, people say, they plan on people who are victimized. They're playing, being a victim right now is the end thing. It's the end thing. And it's no shot down, or there's no disrespect to those who are real victims. But they're playing on your feelings and emotions, those who are close to you, and everything alike. And they're playing on the fact that if the rumors was going on for so long, it must be true. And this whole social media situation we got going on, okay? With the situation with this social media, I just think that it can hurt and help a case. It gets information out there, but it also does what the other side do. I don't think that we need to sit up there and take a man's life and say he ran an enterprise, RICO, Mann Act, and all these different charges that the federal government want to throw at him without getting everyone. When you give, who do you decide who be the entree? In other words, the sides we're going to give immunity because we got the entree. Who decide? Oh, because he's the celebrity. He's the biggest R&B star. He's the steak. Everybody else is the mashed potatoes and the string beans. I don't go for that. If you're going to throw the whole food away and it's all poison, you throw everything away. You don't throw away and pick the plate on what, if the food poison throughout the whole entree, you're not going to pick and decide what food and what side and everything is poison. You're going to throw it all away. So that's what I've always advocated for. So when those, you know what I mean, hey, I got a lot of videos you can go back and watch, okay, regardless of what was said. So my point is, with this O.J. Simpson case, it was sequestered jury. They had been there for 260, they almost been there a year. This was one of the longest jurors in history. It went down in history as being sequestered. But the prosecutor asked for the jurors to be sequestered in this double homicide, but it didn't work out in their favor. Yes, later on, O.J. Simpson was tried on something different. But this particular case, the biggest case in history, he was acquitted. He was acquitted. And so today, I want people to understand something. If you are hung, if there's one reasonable doubt, a tiny fraction of it, it's not guilty. He must be convicted without a doubt. From the beginning to the end, without a doubt. Evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence. A look like him in the video does not mean it's him. We all have a look-alike. Can you 100% or 1,000% say that's him? If you can't, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. That's the same slogan for this video. And this is the message that the Kel supporters need to be getting out here. And this is what SPITTINFIRE is doing. So I brought to you this right here. I'm going to put this in here because the way I read, and my ass can't see like I used to. Okay? I used to have 20/20 vision 3 years ago. I'd be surprised if it's 1/1 now. I'm going to put this in the chat below so I'll copy that. Hopefully I don't forget. I always forget. You guys get on me too about that. Oh my God, you guys get on me about that. Y'all whoop me so bad. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about this until the trial starts. Okay? I'm going to be leaving though, but I'm hoping some of you true supporters, okay, speak on these things. And dig even further than what I did. I just did a surface level. I didn't, you know what I mean? I just found an old clipping. This was old. And there wasn't social media out there, but there was the stuff that was out there. And I just felt that this would be something to even open up for people to do some digging. Okay? And I hope it helps. And I hope we keep it going. Because I want people to understand something. And I want you to understand something. Those women liberation movements does not define our court system. We can allow them to interject. And we cannot believe everything in the media. Okay? This article speaks a lot about the media. We can't. We're better than that. We're better people. If you want a man to be convicted, know the true facts. No, without a doubt. Without a doubt. If you got one doubt, you should not take no one's freedom because you wouldn't want that to be done to you. Okay? If you like this video and this article that I read to you, and we discussed what sequestered jurors and things like that mean, and prosecutors asking for it, then make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. But I appreciate that you even gave my video a view, okay? And make sure you subscribe to my channel because it's very appreciative. And hit the notification bell so you will know when I upload a new video. And if you would like to support my channel, okay, you can Cash App Spittinfire. Some of the proceeds even go to building the channel and getting new software and computer equipment and things like that, or even decorators. But some of it goes to the Innocent Project, okay?